Okay, it's there's been an awakening. Have you felt it? You are listening to Dark Matter Radio with your host, Ronnie. Wherever you may be on this time zone, I appreciate you being here. Welcome to Dark Matter Radio, and with your host, Ronnie McLean. One of the numbers you can give us a call at is 713-955-0636. We're going to be having a special guest on. His name is MENTELLECT, and it's going to be a very interesting show as we are going to be discussing the original indigenous beings of the Americas, the native Nubians, as some people call them. But this is going to be fascinating. So grab a cup of tea and get some coffee and hold on to your seats, because we're about to go into places where people haven't really gone before. We are doing extremely well in terms of putting together a lot of different things, a lot of different programs for you here at Dark Matter Radio with your host, Ronnie McLean. The number to the call in for people is 713-955-0603. And you're going to be able to talk to our very important guest that is coming up now. Tonight's subject, the native Nubians of America. On Dark Matter Radio with your host, Ronnie McLean, we present tonight the intellectual Nubian, MENKARAYZZ. He speaks about the black people being the first people in the Americas, setting up government structures and constructing pyramids. The intellectual Nubian also describes how black people were not enslaved African tribal people, but kidnapped free people who were already in the Americas. Nubian MENKARAYZZ, and I'll have him correct me on his last name in just a moment. The Republic of MENTELLECT was physically founded in the year 2013 by the intellectual Nubian, mentor and leader of the R.O.M, R.O.M. The movement took 10 years to officially come together. After many evolutions from the year 2003, it was formed as a future intelligence movement of the AHMEN, God, or OMNI, mental creator. This was because of the future visions that its founder had received directly from AHMEN, mental creator AHMEN. These future visions, including everything from the evolution of the bright race out of the black race, the downfall of the black race, the consolidation of the human race, the actual thoughts of God, AHMEN, and the true intelligence of the inner and outer creation. The Republic of MENTELLECT represents a new law and order of intelligence among an evolving God race of advanced people who will be known as the bright or the intellectuals ones. This order of the true God, AHMEN, represents an enlightened new people with a collective of intelligence, outlook, and inner vision towards the higher self. God, AHMEN, represents the higher self, and R.O.M represents the ascending body of the collective people after the order of AHMEN. Mr. MENKARAYZZ found this movement to bring together a God-thinking people as opposed to a God-fearing people within the substance confines of religion. He is the author of all R.O.M's publications and the supreme director of the movement. And we now want to introduce you on, and good afternoon and good evening. Thank you for coming on to the show.
How you doing? How you doing, Ron?
Good.
How you doing? I like to say, you know, I find it a great honor to be on your broadcast. I was made aware of your interest in our videos on MENTELLECT TV and YouTube, which is they're climbing at a rapid pace now. We've recently got into the video production thing as of last year, and we have like about 28 to 30 videos. And the audios are taken from our radio broadcast, MENTELLECT Radio on Blog Talk, which comes on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday night at 9, where I speak about everything under and beyond the sun. I've been doing this broadcast, MENTELLECT Radio, since the year 2012. Well, I started on the Abundance Network, and eventually, you know, went off and did my own thing, and you know, we restructured the Republic of MENTELLECT and put everything together as an intelligence movement. And we felt this was the next step as we start to grow as an organization, because this is the next wave in true community settings, true collective settings that, you know, black people must evolve into. You know, our saying in the Republic of MENTELLECT is evolve or die to the black race. Let me reintroduce myself, because I commend you on you know, attempting to get my name right, because a lot of people can't pronounce it. It is NUBEN, like Ruben, NUBEN MENKARAYZZ.
MENKARAYZZ. Okay.
MENKARAYZZ. NUBEN MENKARAYZZ. So not Nubian, NUBEN, like Ruben. Well, I'm the only one. It's easy because I'm the only one who has that name, and you know, even the members in the Republic of MENTELLECT who've received Mentellian names, because we refer to members in the Republic of MENTELLECT as the Mentellian race. We are not Africans. We are not African Americans. We are not Negroes. We don't respond to any. We're not Moors. We don't respond to any of that. We respond as Mentellians, meaning people of the higher mind or the higher intelligence or the higher light, which is why we also refer to ourselves as the bright race, not the black race. And reason why we do that is because black, you know, the reason why they refer to the white man referred to us as black first, and we don't actually have black skin. Our skin is brown, reddish brown to beige complexion, but they refer to us as black people because it was meant to be an insult, you know, as a lack of intelligence, because they always teach that darkness or blackness represents the absence of light, and the light represents intelligence. And we are the most intelligent people potentially on the planet, because we were the first ones to walk the planet and set up the first governmental structures and societies and things like that, that this society, modern day societies like America and all of the societies and governments that stand in the day are now copying from. So we refer to ourselves as the bright race, not the black race. We are the Mentellians or the Mentellian Ammonites, and we are after the order of Amen, who we acknowledge as the true supreme God, who was in connection with our people in the ancient world, be it in ancient Egypt, Kemet, Sumeria, Nubia, the same God beings that created everything in existence. We bear witness that the so-called black man and black woman are their natural-born descendants, that we were not created on Earth, that we were actually created in another star system of a moving planet, and we were transported here as a so-called race that became black people. Everybody else acknowledged. Huh?
No, understood. I'm glad that you got into.
I can keep going. I'm sorry. I can keep going. No.
No. That's good. That's good. I want to try to slow you down just a little bit, because
okay.
With the listeners that we have, I mean, we have a lot of different listeners, and you covered also a heck of a lot of ground just now in terms of who we are as a race, why you're calling the name, why you're not actually using the name black and replacing it with bright. And a lot of people, you know, because of the names that have been given to us, and a lot of people that I've been talking to and interviewing, a lot of people out there have a difficult time understanding why they shouldn't use that word black against themselves, and why they shouldn't call themselves that. And I keep on telling them, as you was explaining, if you just looked at the morphology of the word, the definitions of the word, it does mean exactly everything that you said, and also it means bleached out. And you know, it takes away everything that we are from what we are in terms of being melanated people. And it gets into, and I want to get into this a little bit later in terms of where we actually come from, because as I've been studying, a lot of people say, you know, in terms of the history of the world, the people of the world, they say that we all come from Africa. And you have a different take on that, which I really want to get into that in a little bit. I want to also let people know some of the videos that he has put out on YouTube, which is extremely popular, is prosperity, preaching poverty, pimps, party, players, and, you know, bullcrap. The Matrix, what is it really? Is it what it really means? Is God engineering a new race from amongst black people? Why black people see God as a concept and not a reality? And one of the ones that I really gravitated to was the Superman story and its connection with the 144,000 and the future of the black race and what it means. And I got into that because, it was interesting that that the colors red, black, and green are something that really doesn't symbolize black people. Could you expound on that just a little bit?
Okay. I was explaining to a lot of people who are pushing the Pan-African thing and the red, black, and green colors that those are actually not the colors of our people. That the red, black, and green, the color was, the colors of that flag was created by Marcus Garvey here in America. Was a Jamaican, who started the UNIA, the United Negro Improvement Association. That the so-called Africans in Africa never had a unified or universal flag. So Marcus Garvey came up with that. What they don't understand about that is that the red, black, and green flag concept was actually including not just black people, but Irish people and Indians as well. The green represented the Irish, which were Caucasians, of course, and the red represented the so-called Indians, because Garvey, felt like he identified and he identified with their struggle for freedom, because, as you know, the Irish were always fighting the English for independence in Ireland, and, the Indians at that time were always going fighting the English for independence under Gandhi and those people. So, he, felt the same struggle, and he as, black people were fighting, for freedom here in America and abroad. So he incorporated all these different races into the flag, but a lot of people don't know that. So that's why I say this red, black, and green flag really has nothing to do with black people. And I also said that the red, blue, and gold, which is ancient Nubian colors, which, our people are Nubians, not Africans. We are from the East, meaning Egypt and Nubia and all that. The black people here in America, South America, and pretty much spread out over the world, are not African. We come from the East, not the Western part of what they ended up calling Africa through the Romans. So the colors in ancient Nubia in those places was red, blue, and gold, which America ended up using in their flag of red, white, and blue with the with the gold fringe around it. So this was actually taken from our ancient societies and governments like ancient Kemet or Nubia, Egypt, and Sumeria, and they gave us this red, black, and green tribal colors, which have nothing to do with our people. We are governmental people here, not tribal people.
Yeah. So one of the things that they try to this is one of the a big thing that they do in terms of trying to get us to associate with things that take us further away from who and what we actually are as beings on this planet. Is that not right?
Yes. Yeah. to refer to us as African or tribal people, I said the majority of people you could tell are so-called black people here. You know, you have people who are of African descent, but you would notice that a typical African looks like Barack Obama, even though he's of mixed race. You can tell and look in his face that he is of African descent, meaning he was born in the West, but his wife, Michelle Obama, is Nubian. She's not African. The majority of black people here on this side in America, South America, Mexico, those are Nubians from the Olmecs, from who the Olmecs are descended from the ancient Egyptians and the Sumerians. It's the same people who crossed over into America 16,000 years before the so-called Indians came over here under a man named Hushin. Those were Asians who crossed over here in the 4th century and mixed in with the Olmecs, our people who were already here. And we were building pyramids and things like that. We were the original Mayans and all of this. And we were ran the red, blue, and gold colors. You could look at the early Mayans. They had the same colors because it's all the same people. We were always traveling people from the east.
So do you and I see that we're starting to get some callers on the line, but we're not going to take calls as of right now. I'm not going to pick up the lines right now. I need to get Nuben a chance to be able to express everything that he needs to be able to get out, and then we're going to be taking calls a little bit later on. So please just hang on in there, and we'll get right with you. Also, you also mentioned the word Africa, and that's not what really Africa is. It's a name that the Romans gave to the Africans. A lot of things that we explain on this channel is that African also means conquered, and then they put the name of the people behind it, such as American, which means conquered Americans, African Americans, conquered people. So it's something that I can definitely identify with, and a lot of the radio public, can identify with also. But there's a lot of people out there who have a difficult time identifying themselves with anything else other than African, and think that they're almost 100% African in terms of who we are on this side of the earth. Could you explain a little bit about the where we actually came from and where we sprung up from? I know the Olmecs or the Zai people is something that you really, really get into with a lot of your teachings. Could you please enlighten us in terms of our natural origins here in the Americas?
Okay, you want me to just go back to the Americas? You don't want me to go back beyond that? But okay, I will start in the Americas. Your so-called Olmec or Mende people, or who they refer to as the Folsom people, were already here in America 16,000 years before the white man, before the so-called Asians who crossed over and mixed in with us and became so-called Native Americans or Indians, what they end up calling them. We were already on the side. We walked into America, before the total drifts started taking place here, and the break-off points, because our people from the east are known as pyramid builders, and we are known as traveling people. This is where the so-called black man, the so-called black men, the Nubians, traveled all over the world, because you will see our government set up, you will see our pyramid structure set up, and we were the ones who were building the pyramids in parts of America, or they would refer to America as the land of the frogs, parts of America, Mexico, South America. We built the pyramids all over there, and you see the Olmec heads, the large Olmec head with the helmets on. That was the same people as the ancient Nubians, the ancient Egyptians. It was the same people, same serpent symbols, same, like I said, pyramid structures and governments that were set up. So our people as that traveling people who moved about. Your so-called Africans in the West, they didn't travel anywhere. This is why if you look at the so-called Africans, you'll see that they're tribal people, and they're very traditional, and they tend to stay in one place. This is how you know we're not African, because our people were traveling all over the place. You'll find Nubians in every part of the world. You will find our people with woolly hair, afros, braids, things like that. Your so-called Africans, they don't really grow hair. Their hair is really thick and, tightly coiled and, to their head. But like I said, this, in making a distinction and letting it be known, myself, along with the brother Thousand Goldheads, who's been on YouTube putting out videos. He used a few of my audios and doing things, that we're not, the people here on this side are Native American. We are the Native Americans. Even though they say Indian, we're not Indian. We come out and we say we are the Nubians of America, the native Nubians of America. The Olmecs are Nubians. The Mende people, these are all Nubian people, and you have a big conspiracy with the white man here on this side and the so-called Mexicans to try to hide that fact that the Olmec or Mende people, that we are descendants of those people, and that the majority of our people did not come here through slave ships. We were already here, and that they kidnapped free people and pulled them into slavery, which is why when they showed you that movie 12 Years a Slave, they showed you people like Solomon Northup, who was free in the North, and they kidnapped him and brought him to the South. They told half the story because they would do that all the time. You would have kidnappers who would come up to the North and take and kidnap men and women and bring them back south, knock them out, bring them down south, and the next thing you know, they wake up in slavery. So that's really how the majority of our people got put into slavery, through kidnapping here in America.
Right. Right. And when it comes down to the pyramids and the structures, because I know that there are some researchers that say that that the melanated person has been here on this side of the earth for at least 50,000 years, and you're saying that the proof at least 16,000 years shows that we were the ones that built all of the pyramids that are roaming from all of the Americas, and that these pyramids are signs of a governmental structure that was quite different from the other side of the earth. Is that not right?
Yeah, it was. When you say the other side of the earth, you meaning Africa, or what? What do you mean? When I say
the other side of the earth, like Africa, Europe,
yeah,
India.
It was quite different because, like I said, this is how you know the Nubians when you see them. They will always take certain things with them when they go and they travel and they go building other places. You will always see the pyramid structures. You will always see the men wearing helmets and things like that, or crowns, and you will always see the symbol of the serpent or the bird, which is what the Jews use today in their symbol, the Kabbalah, and they use the medical symbol of the Cadius. So you know it's the same people with the same traditions. Well, you know certain names will change, but they'll take their customs and traditions of building right along with them into different areas. That's all they did.
So with a lot of the so there was a large, huge civilization that was here, and I say again, it was a peaceful civilization because of the governmental structure, and a lot of the accounts that I've read from the explorers that when they first came here, like Amerigus Vespucci, he said that when he first landed on this land, that these people aren't like us. That they have a different type of governmental system than we have, and they don't run around in fear because there's virtually no crime and no murders, which was completely and totally different from the other side of the world. Could you expound a little bit on the governmental system that may have been here on this side of the earth?
It was a basic setup like what the ancient Kemites or the ancient Egyptians and Nubians had. See, all of the same, it's always the same structure. They might not have used the terminology pharaoh, but it's the same structure that this society has today, where you have the president, you have the Congress, you have the Senate. It was something along those lines, that because what you have to understand is that very rarely does the white man come with anything original. He will see people that they admire doing something first, and then they will copy it. This is why you'll see where they use the eagle, they use the pyramid on their dollar bills, they use the colors red, blue, and gold, draped in white, which is really our colors. They use all of these things. They use the serpent symbol. They use all of these things as well. So, you know, it's a sign that, you know, these people, we had pretty much the same setup of, like I said, one top person at the head, like a pyramid structure, the top brick on, the capstone on the top, or the leader, and a government pyramid type structure going down, you know, the same thing like the president, senators, congressmen. So it was something set up like that.
Interesting. So the pyramid structure was actually a representation of the societal governmental structure that they use to govern the people. Also, the pyramids were they part of any kind of religious ceremonies, or representations of God. What else did the pyramids represent in the society?
Well, a lot of them were storehouses, like just like today, what you have modern buildings, where you have libraries, you might have you might have public buildings and things like that. It was the same thing with them. They had public buildings. They had places where they would the priest of Amen or the the high priest and all them would congregate. So it's just like what you got today. What you would have like a church, and you would have a office building, and you would have a congressional building. They had the same type of thing with all these different structures and pyramids and things like that. It's the same setup.
Now, forgive me for jumping around a little bit, but you got into religion, which I want to come back to, but we're talking about the governmental structure right now. So one of the studies that I did, I hadn't talked about it on this show, this is going to be the first time, is that when Benjamin Franklin was helping to establish the governmental structure of the United States, the corporate United States of America, he actually used and framed his arguments for the governmental structure off of the structure of government that was already here on this side of the land. And during the war against England, it was reported that George Washington didn't really believe in Jesus Christ. We're getting into two things now: governmental structure and religion. George Washington really didn't believe in Jesus Christ, that he actually prayed to and possibly met. They explained it as reptilian people, but I'm in some of the reports that I gather he met with God or God type people or angels. Could you just go into a few of those questions for us, please?
Well, the setup, the governmental setup, that the governmental setup had to come from our people on the side that the white man took, because in England they had kings and queens. They didn't have no governmental setup back then. So where did it come from? It came from the people that was here before the white man, and they say they got it from the so-called Iroquois tribes and Native Americans, but in actuality, where did they get it from? They got it from our people, who were the Olmecs, who were there, who a lot of them were descendants of through the race mixing and things with the so-called Asian and our people, because that's what all your Native Americans are, nothing but Asians and blacks mixed. But the setup and the governmental structure, like I said, they copied from our people. And as far as George Washington, he was a Freemason who, bore witness to Amun-Re or Amun-Ra, which is the true son of God, right? And, if you look at a lot of the, symbology and the images of what they call in modern day times angels and stuff like that, you will see that a lot of those winged beings in ancient Egypt and Sumeria, same type of beings, look like reptilians, and they had faces like creatures and things like that. So that's more or less what they were tapping into and tuning into, that this was a race of reptilians, or people who are, have reptilian traits to them. So I wouldn't be surprised if he was tapping into or speaking to, because they said he had future visions of an America, and that what he was supposed to do was supposed to be successful, because they built the structure of America on ancient Egypt. All of America is nothing but a ripoff of ancient Egypt, from Mount Rushmore, which they copied Abu Simbel from the Pentagon, right? And even using the five-pointed star, all of this, the five-pointed star is nothing but five pyramids on the outside of a inverted circle. So, on the circle with the pyramids, five pyramids around it, which is the star. So, all of this is nothing but rip-offs, even down to the president, which is really the pharaoh. That's a copy. That's a rip-off of Pharaoh, and your Senate, which is and your Congress and all this other stuff. You had your priest of Amen, so you had your governors and the people who were under the Pharaoh. So this is all just a rip-off of what ancient Egypt did, even down to having slaves here. And I broke this down. I was going to put this out on the radio broadcast, that the reason why America actually had slaves, why they allowed slavery here, is because the ancient Egyptians had slaves. See, America and the Freemasons, like George Washington, they wanted to follow ancient Egypt. They knew that ancient Egypt was successful because ancient Egypt was around for thousands and thousands and thousands of years before it fell down, before the Greeks and them came in and took over. So they wanted to go as long as the ancient Egyptians, because Freemasonry and the Shrinerism is all based on ancient Egypt. So they wanted to build a society like the ancient Egyptians. That's why George Washington wore his hair cut a certain way, like what they would call the Namu's cut, where he looked like he was wearing a pharaoh's Namu's. They did, like I said, Mount Rushmore is copied after Abu Simbel, and like I said, the pyramid on the dollar bill, the eye over the capstone, all that's ancient Egyptian, and that's Amen and Amen-Ra. So that's what they really base it on.
So they were actually following the true religion of what I would call Earth, and they began to start taking away the religion of people on this earth to get them to put energy into something that would probably be empty. And so they use that energy, the real energy, in order for them to be able to succeed in building their paradigm of the government that was structured here already before they got here.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, even down to choosing slavery here, because they realized that slavery first was being done in ancient Egypt, and they, what was the chief crop in ancient Egypt in the ancient world? It was cotton. What did they have black people picking here? Cotton. So
That's
it's
right.
all that's why they did that. This is exactly, they were trying to follow out ancient Egypt, and they had the slavery go on for a certain period of time and whatnot, because they knew they needed the slave labor to build up America. And like I said, they wanted America to be like ancient Egypt. That's why they set it up the way they set it up with the president, which is, like I said, the pharaoh and all this other stuff. So all this is following out that. And as far as the religion, the true religion of the Illuminati, the Shriners, and all the people, the families that run this thing, is Amenism. They follow Amenism. They don't follow Christianity. They don't follow Islam. They don't follow Judaism. Those are all the lesser or lower studies in the Masonic temples. Those are lower and lesser studies that they give to what they consider to be the church or the peons. The world to them represents the church, and they represent the state. That's why they said there's a separation between church and state. The state represents the upper echelon, or the intelligent people in that hierarchy of who really runs the society, that small percentage of people who run the mass populace, and that represents to them the church. And they gave the church people their false gods.
Now, I got to stop you there for a second, because I'll have a lot of Christians running up and down my spine, as well as the Jews and the Muslims, because I can see right now they're all probably out there with their pitchforks coming up to the castle gates when you start talking about that they were a lower religion, they're peons, and not really following the true religion, and that they're actually separated from the true God. And what would you say to the people that have been taught this all of their life, and that are having a very difficult, very difficult way of understanding as to how they may have actually been duped into following something that isn't really real?
I could just tell them, like I had to learn, you have to wake up. You have to, accept the truth. The truth is that there's only one true God, and that true God has been linked to all the religions. And our people were talking about that one true God, and we didn't even, and all the people on the planet were talking about that one true God, and they didn't even realize it. That one true God has always been tucked behind the prayers of every religion, be you a Muslim, Christian, Israelite, Mason, Buddhist. They all seal their prayer off with what? What's the last thing they say?
Amen.
Exactly. That's the name of God. That's the true and only name of God. And they know it. And they do it because our ancient people called on Amen or Amen. So this is what your so-called higher ups, your hierarchy really follows. They are Amenism. They follow Amenism, just as I follow, and I am a student of Amenism, or what we call MENTELLECT through Amenism. So we're practicing MENTELLECT as an extension of Amenism, which I'm going to bring out more on and break down what Amenism really is, and the ultimate connection with the true Creator, the true God, Amen.
So as we're talking about the again, this is Dark Matter Radio. We're talking with NUBEN, right? I might pronounce your name right, NUBEN.
NUBEN, yes.
McKarayzz, yes. So I'm
gonna give you something real quick. Let me give you something before you go. How you know that they practice the religion of Amenism is when you see them throw up what they call the Cornutu sign, or the devil handheld symbol sign. When you see them throwing it up, you know what I'm talking about, right?
I was gonna get into that. I was gonna get into that.
Okay, I must have went into your mind and got it. But they throw that symbol up. That's not a sign of the devil. That is a sign of Amen. That is the crown of Amen that they're throwing up. But they want you to think it's a sign of the Baphomet or the devil, because they want the majority of the populace of the world to stay away from it. They don't want you dealing with Amen.
I want you to just repeat that one more time, because I want everybody to understand that we're really getting into some really serious information here, because when things are being explained to you from secret societies, and when you start to see all these things that are happening out there in the world, in terms of all these different signs and all these different chantings and stuff like that, they're actually really doing something that's actually connecting themselves with an energy that that they separated you from for a long, long time. So could you please just go over that one more time in terms of Baphomet and the sign the sign of the horns, and who we're getting into some really deep water now, right? So everybody get your make sure you get your life vest on, because I know you're going to want to jump. If you want to jump, make sure if you're at high altitudes, please put on a parachute. But what you're getting ready to hear now is going to be a very, very, very eye-awakening, because in the Bible it tells you what is a lie becomes the truth, what is the truth becomes a lie, and it's going to be hard to distinguish between the difference. So please take that information with you as you hear what's happening right now on this show. So we're going to talk a little bit about the Illuminati and how it is affecting us as a race of people. So please get into the devil signs, the horns, and stuff like that, and just explain that just a little bit, and then we'll begin to get into exactly what the black race really is and maybe where they're really from.
Okay. Well, the so-called horn-held sign, or what they call the Cornutu sign, which a lot of your so-called conspiracy theorists and all them kept saying that this is actually the symbol of Baphomet and the devil and Satan and all this other business, is actually not any devil or any Satan. There is no Satan. There is no devil. What the Illuminati and the elites are actually worshiping when they make that symbol is the actual true God, which is Amen. They would rather you think that they worship the devil or Baphomet, because they do not want you tapping into that power of God. This is why they are in rulership, because they have discovered the true God, which is Amen. They worship the same God that the ancient Egyptians worshiped, the Sumerians, and all the people that were in power before them. They have not broken that chain. So what they did was they created or made the difference between church and state, and they gave the church, the people, the populace, the false gods like Jesus, Allah, Jehovah, Yahweh. They gave them the false gods, and they kept the true knowledge of Amen to themselves. And they allowed people to think that Amen was the devil, that Amen was evil, by making them horn signs and whatnot. But what people don't understand truly is that the whole image of the devil or adversary, or was created by the same person who translated the Bible, right? King James. He wrote a book called Demonology, because prior to that book, Demonology, there really was no true representation of a devil. But what they realized in the Catholic Church and all of them is that Jesus, or the God that they were trying to put forward to the people, needed an adversary. So what they did was they took a lot of the teachings of the ancient Egyptians about Amen that they didn't understand, and they created that God Amen, and that God that our ancient people had, and took bits and pieces of it and turned that into a dark and demonic force or figure. And this is where the whole idea of the devil comes from, and hell, and all this other business that they made up.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. So I mean, so when we get back to talking about the native Nubians of America, the religion that they actually follow was the religion of Amen, and that's who they prayed to. And Amen actually at one point, or the Amen race, as you may call them, actually at one point walked on the earth with their Amen descendants. Please explain that.
Well, Amen begat humans, or the Amen being is really a race of black people. The so-called Amen race is actually the race of black people. This is the people that created the human race. I said there's two races of people on the planet. There's the human race, and your human race is comprised of the people who were created here on Earth from the primitive creatures on Earth, which is your East Indians, your Asians, and your Caucasians. This is your human race. Okay? If you notice with your so-called human race, they all have the same trait. What is the thing that they have in common?
Straight hair?
The straight hair, exactly. So that straight hair is really not hair at all. It's fur. It's animal fur. And I know a lot of people are going to be shocked when they hear this, because when your so-called scientists tell you what a human is, what do they say a human really is? It's a form of animal. Do they not?
Yep.
So if they're telling you
that.
Yeah, they say that humans are really animals, or a form of animal. Now, if humans have the same fur as or what they call in here, which is really fur, like a dog, like a horse, like any other animal, and you see your Caucasians, your East Indians, and the flea and tick medication, then there's a sign that they were created from earlier animal species to create the human race. So this was a genetic mutation and a genetic experiment that was conducted by a higher race of being who were really known as the Amen. You know, like you have your human, you have your Amen, and those Amen beings were really the so-called black race, or black people, who you're calling black people today are the descendants of these people. Because if you notice, the so-called black man and black woman, we don't have the same type of texture hair as the rest of the so-called human race, as the so-called East Indians, Asians, and Caucasians. We don't have their type of hair. Our hair grows up on a levitational lift. Their hair grows down on a gravitational pull, because that is a sign that they were created here on Earth, and we were manifested in the stars in a moving planet called Nimbari or Nibiru, and we came down here on Earth as an alien race of Amen, which is where the story and account of the 2/3 of the fallen angels, or the Nephilim, that's really the origin of black people. Black people represent that Nephilim, or that Anunnaki, or the Neteru that came down on Earth. When you pick up in the Bible where they talk about these 200 fallen angels that came onto the Earth, those stories or those accounts are ripped off from the older account of those Nephilim coming down here. That is where your true origin of black people come from. We're not from this planet.
So I know there's a lot of people right now that are they have their hands over their mouth when they're saying that there's two distinct races or two distinct beings that are on this planet. One are the humans, and then the other ones are the race of Amen, which are the race of melanated, dark-skinned people with
carbonated people, carbon-based people. Yeah, there's no melanin is artificial water base or artificial water breakdown of carbon. Your East Indians and your Asians have melanin. So-called black people don't have melanin. We have carbon in our skin. That's why if you notice the scientists, when they're trying to find out and date how old people are, especially so-called black people, what do? Carbon date, right?
Yep, that's right.
So that's because we have carbon in our skin. This is a carbon coating over our skin. We do not have melanin. Melanin is not on the element chart. Carbon is. Melanin is not on the elemental chart because it is an artificial derivative or water-based derivative of carbon. But just like your human race, they're nothing but an artificial race of people that were created. Anything that is created is artificial.
Understood. Now, I know it says in the Bible that Jesus had made a comment to one of the disciples when he was asked a question. He says, is it not written that ye are gods? Now it's not preached much about that in the churches, but that is a quote that is in the Bible. That is a quote that Jesus did say before all the translations began to start coming into effect. And was he really in those quotations? Is he referring to us, the people who are of the darker skin race, original people of the earth?
I'm sorry. What was the quote again? I'm sorry. Can you tell me that quote again briefly?
There's a quote in the Bible. Now, it might not be in everyone's Bible now because the Bible has changed so much. But there is an original quote in the Bible that's translated from the Aramaic to the Greek to the English, and it says that as he's talking to one of his disciples, I believe. Doesn't it say in the old transcriptions that ye are gods? And he says that to one of his disciples. And I've always wondered about that statement about us being gods. And remember the 5%ers. The 5%ers at one point, they were always saying that 95% of the earth is in darkness, or 90% of the earth is in darkness. 5% of the people know what's happened, but they can't do anything about it. 5% of the people know what's happening, and they're the ones who are controlling everything. But they also believe that
supposed to be the bloodsuckers of the earth. Yeah, I know the 10% and the 5% and the 90. What was it? It was the 10%. The 85% are the blind, deaf, and dumb. The 10% are supposed to be the bloodsuckers of the world, and your 5% are your righteous people.
That's
Hello?
right, and they also believe that we are gods, that we are of a part of the Godhead, that we are gods on this earth. And we're getting way out, and we're starting to get out into space here. But I wanted to bring these issues up because it goes to show how far away our people and the people of Earth has gotten from the original history that we're all a part of. And when we begin to start talking about the Native Americans, the Native Nubian Americans, the OMNI, the Zai people, and all that has come from them, and all that has happened in a relatively short span period of time, 200-300 years, of how much was taken away from us in terms of who we are as a people. You also get into the reason that the big lie that black people are mentally inferior. I mean, what you just got finished explaining, says a whole lot, because we're going to have another show just based on the origins of our people, and so also.
They teach that black people come from Africa. Now, this is not impossible. That is, when people say you come from Africa, how do you come from dirt and earth? How do you pop out of the ground? Where do you come from out of the dirt and the earth? How do you come from Africa? How do you come from land?
Well, they haven't really fully explained.
Of course they haven't, because it's a lie. Because it's a lie.
Yeah,
of course they're never going to explain it, because it's a lie. How are you going to physically come from dirt and earth? When they say you come from Africa, how do you pop out of the land? Because you don't create life on earth. You don't create life off of dirt. You create life in water. Okay? So life would start in water, not on dry land. And then
that's another comment.
The next thing, and then the next thing they say, there was a time where the Greeks, or should I say the Romans, named this place Africa. Well, if we were before the time the Romans named it Africa, then how are we going to be African if we existed before the name?
Right. That's a whole other reason why I don't like that word African American.
I don't like African neither, or black.
Yeah.
We don't use none of that. That's nothing but the white man trying to define you, because when he defines you, that's his way of enslaving you. And you could thank Jesse Jackson for calling us African Americans, because that came from him, directly from the damn white man who controls him.
That's another subject as well. And we're going to take a short break.
Okay.
just a short break, and we're going to be right back in just a minute, and we are going to continue our conversation.
You're listening to Dark Matter Radio with your host, Ronnie McLean, on Black Talk Radio. To reach Dark Matter and to talk to Ronnie, log on to Black Talk Radio. Look up Dark Matter, click on the icon. You can reach Ronnie through Skype or through the telephone number that is provided. Dark Matter Radio with Ronnie McLean. Ronnie McLean and his special guest, Nubia. Our caller line is 713-955-0603, and we are in a very interesting conversation. And I know a lot of the information that's being brought out on the show is can be very, 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 very disturbing. And I need everyone to listen to these subjects with an open mind and with a mind that is a pureness, because a lot of things that we have gone through as a race of people have been taken away from us. And so this is really one of the first shows that actually dedicates itself to the mindset of indigenous, what you would call Nubian Americans, of us here in North America. It's based on being able to get you the information that you need to know in order for you to be able to actually really ascend yourself to a higher state of being. It's not to take away your religion, not to take away your personality, not to take away your family, not to take away any of your belief systems. I mean, you're going to believe what you want to be, and you're going to be what you want to be. So it's not to do any of that, but it's to bring this out and get it into your face, to be right into your face with it. So then that way you can ask those serious questions as to the history that you've been taught. I mean, I've been taught that I was a pygmy when I was in first and third grade. And I remember in the history books when I opened it up, they had a picture of a pygmy there with a bow, something in his nose. He was short, and I'm not going to say he was ugly because there's beauty in everything, but it had maybe about 2 paragraphs about where we were from on this planet, and then everything else was in a European context. So what we're giving to you now is things that are in a context more suited for who and what you are, so that we can get you the truth. As we get back to our special guest, just tell us a little bit more about your website, about your videos, a little bit more about you, any of the products that you might be putting out there for people to be more enlightened. So could you please expound on that just a little bit, please? Thank you.
Okay. Like you said in the beginning, I am the leader and founder of the Republic of MENTELLECT. And the Republic of MENTELLECT is an intelligence movement, intelligence organization for what we refer to as the MENTELLians of the bright race. We acknowledge that we are the people who are referred to as the next generation or the next bloodline of the race of gods, in alignment with AHMEN as the AHMEN race, the 144,000, the next regenerated seed of the next chapter or the hierarchy of the black race, who will be evolving or transforming into the bright race, no longer using that terminology. No longer using that terminology black anymore. Right now, you can go and check us out on MENTELLECT that's MENTELLECT, MENTELLECT-republic.com, and check out our website. We have our flag up there, which we call the Tri-Solar flag, and the Mentellian Tri-Solar flag. We have our own language, Mentellian, coming out. The Mentellian language. We also have a few books out, which will be on the site. I don't want to, prematurely talk about it, but there's going to be there's 4 new books out actually. There's the Projection God. There is Projection God. There is where's the other ones at? I had the titles right in front of me. There's give me a second. Let me see. I'll call them off later because I can. Oh, okay. Here's the other one. We got the logical facts of creation and evolution on Earth and beyond. We're going to be reprinting that and putting it back out because it sold out. It did very well. We also have the MENTELLECT book, The Future Path to Unlimited Mind Power from R.O.M. That's the MENTELLECT book, and the true Supermen book. I think that's called the True Supermen book, where we break down the true origin of where the Superman story came from, and what the symbol on Superman's chest actually is, and how it's really linked to so-called black people.
Very, 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 very well stated. And I want to try to get into that. We do have a caller on the line, so I just want to pop him on the line right now, or her, and take at least one question, a few questions, and then get back into our conversation. Is that okay with you?
That's fine.
Okay. Caller, you are now on the line. What is your first name? Hello, caller. You are now on the line. Did you want to ask a question, or are you just listening? So I believe the caller we have. Some of the callers are just listening. So I'm going to put him back on hold. And as I put him back on hold, I want to get you to get into the Superman story. If you can explain just a little bit of the Superman story, because a lot of people, everybody knows about Superman, but they don't know exactly where the Superman story came from. He was one of my favorite superheroes when I was growing up, along with that Black Panther guy. But yeah, so get into the Superman story and the origins of that, and what's the important things that we should know and take away from the Superman story.
Well, the Superman story was created, in the present day by 2 Jewish men, 2 young Jewish boys, one by the name of Joel Shuster and Jerry Siegel and Joel Shuster, I believe the name. Shuster and Siegel, or Siegel and Shuster, I should say, Jerry and Joel. 2 Jewish kids back in 1943 or 44. I want to say 43, 44. And I'm sorry, 1939. 1939. They actually got the idea for Superman from Jesse Owens, okay? Because Jesse Owens at the time in 1936 was in the Olympics, and he ran against Hitler's man. I forget what the guy's name is. And he beat, he won the trophy for America. He was the fastest. Jesse Owens was really fast, and the high
That's right.
jumps and things like that. And he won all of these awards and trophies. And when he beat Hitler's man, and the 2 young men being Jews, they were against Hitler and the whole thing. So they looked at Jesse Owens like a Superman and like a god, because he beat Hitler's man, and Jesse Owens did the high jump and stuff. So when they created Superman, they modeled him really after Jesse Owens, because Superman's faster than a speeding bullet, able to leap tall buildings a single bound, because Jesse Owens was jumping over, doing the high jump, and he won in the high jump things too. So that's where they got the image of Superman from. Now, as far as him coming from another planet, like I said, I explained that your so-called Jews know that the chosen people of God are really not from this planet, and they're really making description to the so-called black man and black woman, because they know that the so-called black man and black woman, all your so-called Hasidic Jews and all of them know that the so-called black man and black woman are the chosen people of God. Even your high-up Zionists know that, right? So
yeah,
when they were using the colors to come up with the image of Superman, right? They went into ancient Egypt because all your Jewish children, they know the stories of ancient Egypt because their Jewish customs are really modeled after the ancient Egyptians, from the wearing the lock on the side of the head, and like you see young Jewish boys wearing the lock, which go back to the young boys in ancient Egypt and things like that, to the origin of the colors and the serpent and things like that, because the symbol that they put on Superman's chest is actually a diamond-shaped pyramid. That's a pyramid with a serpent inside of it. That's not an S. It's a serpent inside of a pyramid. Now, going back to ancient Egypt, the symbol of the pyramid is from our people, and that the pharaohs wore serpents on their crown. So they put that on Superman's chest along with the colors red, blue, and gold, which you can look into the Nubian culture right now, and you'll still see the Nubians wearing red, blue, and gold over there. So dark red, blue, and gold what goes back to the priest of Amen, because the priest of Amen wore the colors red, blue, and gold, which they represented as the three sons in which Superman came from, because the priest of Amen, or the priest of Amen-Re, the son of Amen, is where you get the so-called tri-solar system of the red sun, the blue sun, and the golden or the yellow sun. Again, goes back to ancient Egypt and Sumeria, where they made reference to the sun, the three suns, as Utu, Apsu, and Shamash, which was the red sun, the blue sun, and the gold sun. So all of that comes from our people. Like I said, that S on Superman's chest is not an S, it's a serpent. If you look at the symbol on the modern Superman, the one they did in 2013, you'll see that is a snake, not an S. When she asked him in the Superman movie, the one that came out in 2013 with the English actor, I forget what his name is, she said, "What is that on your chest?" He said, "That S on your chest." He said, "That's not an S." She said, "What does it mean?" He said, "This symbol means hope." Now, that's a play on the minds of the people, because when Barack Obama became president, what was he talking about?
Hope.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, yeah. So this is what links that serpent symbol forward to our people that really belongs. And then you hear about Superman absorbing light from the sun, or absorbing energy from the sun. White people can't sit in the sun; they burn in the sun. They can't even sit in the sun. Black people absorb vitamin D and all these energy and these minerals and things and all this from the sun. So that is the Superman is a description of a so-called black man, and like I said, their idea of Superman came from Jesse Owens.
Interesting. That is really. So the S one, well, it's not even an S as we now. First of all, let's go back a minute. You have the Superman, the shield on his chest is not actually a pyramid. It's actually a diamond.
Yeah, it's a diamond shape. It's actually 5-pointed, because a diamond is really a 5-pointed pyramid, which is where you get the idea of the pentagon from, the 5 points. Because, like I said, the diamond on Superman's chest, like I said, the 5-pointed shield on his chest is actually a diamond shaped upside down. And if you notice, you'll see people like Jay-Z and all them throwing up the diamond, right, upside down. That's the shield that goes back to the ancient Nubians and the ancient Kemites and whatnot. And like I said, that serpent inside the shield represents the rulership of the pharaohs. That's why they wore the serpent on their crown, because that goes even all the way back to, and I'm not going to give this up because this is a book coming out.
That's right. Yeah, the
true meaning. I'll just say it's going to be in the true meaning of. It's going to be in the book I got coming out. The true meaning of the serpent seed and the woman seed. That's all I'm going to say. That was in the Bible, the woman seed and the serpent seed, when it said be enmity or hostility between the two seeds. So I'm going to break that down, what that really is. So,
So I'm noticing that there's like Quetzalcoatl over in the Mayans, which also probably had something to do with the Olmecs and the other people that are around in that area, because I believe they all share the same bloodline. But the serpent seems to be a very big part of everything when it comes down to religion. Could you shed some light on that?
Well, again, this goes back to the ancient Egyptians. That's why, again, I said wherever our people go, we really take the serpent with us. In the ancient culture, before we got into Christianity and all that, we was forced into that. In Islam, we abandoned the serpent, but the serpent has always followed our people into rulership. Whether we was the ancient Egyptians, the pharaohs, whether we was in Sumeria, whether we was in the early Americas under Quetzalcoatl and all that, and the Mende or the Olmec people, they always had the serpent, because the serpent again represents rulership, or the link to the reptilian people. So that is also again the whole thing in the Bible about the woman's seed and the serpent seed. What does that really mean? Like I said, it's going to be broken down in the book.
Yeah. We have some more calls coming on. We'll get to them in just a second. So now, and again, we're just we're exploring a lot of different things, and we're still, the main subject is the native Nubians of America. But I want to get into the reptilians, because this over the last past, well, I guess maybe 10 years has become a really big thing, especially on YouTube and the internet, and in a lot of political circles, that the Queen's reptilian, the reptilians are taking over, people are being possessed by reptilians. What do you have to say about this reptilian race that's supposedly behind the shadows of governmental orders and trying to create all kinds of chaos?
Well, your early so-called black people, black people have reptilian DNA inside of them. We have reptilian DNA. This is why, if you notice, we shed skin, or what you call ash. We get ashy skin like the reptile. The core of our brain is what the science call reptilian brain. So we are connected to the reptilians. Why? Because the so-called reptilians were the first creatures to walk the planet as the dinosaurs. So when the dinosaurs were shipped onto this planet and germinated in the waters and grown in the waters to live for a time on the planet, when it was not decided by the R.O.M, being of these god beings that the time for the reptilian and the giant lizards, as they call them, was over, they destroyed them on this planet. They sent meteorite showers here to kill them, and when they sent meteorite showers here to kill them, their DNA went into the ground to fertilize the earth, to grow all kinds of new vegetation to feed the people that was coming next behind them, which was the human race that was created, and the animals that came out of that. So, that DNA was in the earth. It brought forth new vegetation, new life, and it also went into the DNA of the new creation of the humans that would come later onto the planet, that these gods brought forward to these R.O.M beings. Now, when they came down here, they took on the DNA that was in the planet, which was the reptilian, and it went into their DNA and it went into their genetics. This is where the reptilian genetic comes from, and these reptilian rulers are still in connection, or are still in contact with the heads of these governments, because they always have come to the heads of governments. If you look back into the ancient Sumerians and you look back into the ancient Egyptians, they've always shown you creatures who look kind of reptilian looking, green people on the wall. Osiris, all these people were green. Those were reptilian people on the wall, and they had, some of them had wings and they fly. So that's nothing new. Again, this is where the white man gets the whole idea of the angels with wings and all this other stuff. It's just a watered down version of those reptilian looking beings that could fly and had wings and things like that. So, it's still connecting to this day, with the heads of the government here. So.
Interesting. We have another caller that's on the line. Just wanted to see whether or not if you want to ask a question. What is your name, caller? I think this caller just wants to listen as well. 704 number. I hear them in the background, but I think they just want to they're just listening on the line. So we'll put them back on hold. And so I know when I was studying the remnants of Atlantis, they came up with a lot of different types of drawings of what some of these Atlanteans may have looked like, and some of them look like humanoid reptilians. And I've always wondered about that, and you're explaining a lot tonight in terms of where all these different type of reptilian beings may have come from. So that old saying, "You are what you eat," is very, very important, because if we assimilate and ingest the things of this planet, and this is what we become, the things that they're doing to this planet now, to the human beings on this planet, in terms of feeding them all kinds of GMOs and stuff like that, that have an effect on their DNA, we're actually it's actually really a serious thing if we're in the process of changing our DNA, because that stuff is going into the earth. But very, very amazing information that we have going on here. It's I tell you, sometimes it's just breathtaking. There's another thing that I wanted to get into, and that's the now, you know, when you look at Ancient Aliens, right? That TV show and all the things that they talk about, and you know, when you listen to Coast, to get these guys on there, and they talk about these Palladians that come from the Sirius system. Do you have any information on these guys who always tend to talk about a certain particular type of people, but always, and basically really never mention any of the darker skin race people on the earth? Do you have any information on these Palladian people or beings, or whatever they are?
Well, I'll say this, that the AHMEN, those are the true God beings. They not only created life and seeded life on this planet, they seeded life in other constellations and other solar systems. So these Palladians and all these people that have life on these other planets were created by these AHMEN. This is why when in the ancient world, a lot of people said that AHMEN was the king of, or the highest or the highest God of all, because these people were seen as gods themselves in a certain realm. So the AHMEN was not just representing a man, it was representing a race of people who were the gods over everybody within the solar system. That's what that meant when it said the Most High, or the King of the Gods. Have no other gods before me. These people represent a form or race of gods, just as we represent a race of gods.
Interesting. So even like the Greys that are going around, well, you know, they talk about the Greys that are snatching people out of their bedrooms and stuff like that. These are the AHMEN beings have also made all of these different denominations of quote unquote, for lack of a better word, alien races or races that are out there. All of them were created by the AHMEN beings.
Mm. Yes. They were all created by the AHMEN being. Yes.
So let me just get down to the skinny of it, and also, what is the purpose of the first people that were on this earth? What is the purpose of the AHMEN beings that we were created to look like and created in their image? What is our purpose on this earth? What is our purpose in this universe?
Well, are you talking about the so-called black race or the so-called human race? Because that's two different people.
Well, I'm going to get into, because I want to have you back. It's going to get too much, so hopefully I can get you back on, because these conversations can get very intense. But I'm just going to say right now, I'm not going to talk about what you would call the human race at this point in time, but I'm going to talk about the so-called black race, the ones that have melanin in their system, the ones that are created after the image of the AHMEN beings.
Well, they were actually a bloodline manifestation, meaning that the AHMEN being came down here with women and with men and women, not just men gods, what you call gods, was female gods that came down here, and they had children here, and we are their descendants of those on this side who are their children of the AHMEN being. Now, the AHMEN being, their children were supposed to oversee the planet and oversee the humans on the planet, and overseeing them, that meant to be like their lords or their land, or the landlords. When you get that terminology, landlord, they were supposed to watch over the land and lord over the humans, basically be the masters to the humans, and make sure that they did the menial work and took care and did the building and stuff like that. So basically, our job here was supposed to be slave masters.
Interesting. And so
and yet humans were created to be slaves.
So the original creation, which not really is a creation, but the original offsprings of the AHMEN beings, when they came here to Earth, were left here to rule the Earth as protectors and to oversee all the operations that were going on this planet.
Yes, under the humans. Yeah, they were supposed to be ruling over the humans, and the humans were supposed to do the work. They were supposed to do all the menial labor and things like that to work the planet and caretake the planet, and the AHMEN being was supposed to be their overseers.
So, and somehow, during history, a reversal came into.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they switched
somehow.
It.
Yeah, there was a reversal that came about, and how in the world did that happen?
Because when the so-called descendants of the AHMEN being fell out of contact with the AHMEN being who were on high in that other realm, they fell out. They lost their true understanding and purpose of why they were here. They forgot why they were here, and they, just like you asked me the question, what is our purpose here? This is what they started to ask. So once you don't know your purpose here, once you don't know why you're here, then that connection of what the point of this planet is, see, because this planet is basically two types of people. It is masters and slaves. Masters and slaves. There is nothing else here other than master and slave. So if one group of people falls out of power as masters, then another group will pick up as masters, and they will make those people slaves. So our people fell out of connection with the fact they were supposed to be masters on the planet, and they were supposed to be over the humans as the masters of the humans.
Wow, that's quite amazing information that you're putting out here right now. And the purpose of the AHMEN gods, the ones that created us and left us here on the planet, the ones that created us, or the ones that we are the descendants of, what is their purpose?
I'm sorry, what is the purpose of the AHMEN being?
Yeah, now again, this
the gods,
the
creators.
That's right.
You want to know what their purpose is?
Their purpose is. I mean, in the Masonic order, they call them the Grand Architects.
The Grand Architects of the universe.
That's right. And right now, there's a solar system that the scientists are watching. I forget which. I don't have that information in front of me now, but they're watching the star. And about 5 or 6 years ago, they seen the star, and it tends to it was getting dimmer, and they were saying that there might have been some sort of somebody was building something around the star to capture the energy in it. And just here recently, they had determined that in a span of maybe 4 or 5 months, 40% of that star's light has dissipated, which is, in our physics, it's an impossibility. And I'm thinking that, when I think of the Grand Architects, these Dyson spheres, as they call them, going around this sun, is this is what they're doing? They're creating stars, or taking the energy from stars and creating planets and maneuvering planets into beings and creating solar systems and stuff. Is that what they mean by Grand Architect?
That's exactly what they mean. These God beings are building other solar systems and other planets in the universe, in space. This is the point of them being in existence, to constantly bring forth new light, new life, new power, new systems, new solar systems, new people, constantly creating life and bringing forth life. So this is what they do. And we just happen to be in this realm where we are supposed to be overseeing the lives on this planet, because they always leave overseers to oversee the planet and watch over the planet and deal directly with them and then you have the people who are supposed to be the slaves or the ones who are serving those overseers. So now the white man is in that position as an overseer, and we are now under him as a slave because we broke the law of the Amen being, which is, number one, not to mix our seed with the humans. Number two, not to, and that means when not to mix the seed with the human, that means that not to mix with the East Indians, the Asians, or the Caucasians, because they were created here. They are not of the God seed or of the God bloodline. They were created here on earth.
Interesting. Okay. And my God, where has the time gone? It was a pleasure having you here, and I'm hoping that you can come back again so that we can continue our conversation of not only about the native Nubians of America and the origins of man on this side of the planet, but to get into all the other things that we're talking about. Amazing information. Can I get you to come back?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
Thank you very much, and I will talk to you soon.
I will.
And thank you everyone for listening.
With Smart Voice from Shaw Business, collaborating in a busy business is easy.
You can teleconference with your team with the push of a button.
You can use instant messaging to get instant answers.
You can even use screen share to collaborate on work docs so everyone can literally be on the same page. How cool is that? Smart Voice works seamlessly across any device with your entire team, even when you're not together.
I'm still here.
Discover all the benefits of Smart Voice at shopbusiness.ca.